Hello music creators, in this video we are going to check out an amazing sounding reverb plugin called HOFA IQ Series Reverb version 2. So let's check it out right now. So this is the HOFA IQ Series Reverb version 2 plugin. But before we dive into the interface and start playing with this, let's just listen to the sound before applying the reverb and after. So this is the piano. Right, so a closed mic piano without reverb, but with reverb. And you can see the particular preset I'm using right here. Let's move on to the next sound example. So I'm using a pad here in a synthesizer without reverb. It sounds like this. Okay, but it gets much more depth and space when applying this particular preset in HOFA. Amazing. So next one, I recorded a cello playing a spiccato pattern, like with some dynamic crescendo. Okay, so mostly the closed mic and the room mic, no whole mic in this cello here, but that's why I removed that to add this whole mic here. And finally, I used an electric piano here. So before, it sounds like this, dry. And then I applied this room preset as the reverb. Okay, so I'm going to use the Ravenscroft 275, which is one of my favorite pianos, and it's in close position, so it will have a very close sound. Which is better because we are going to apply the reverb here on top of it. So I've only used this reverb plugin for a couple of days, but it's already become one of my favorite reverb plugins, mainly because it's amazing flexibility and versatility. Another thing is, and more developers should take notice about this, I can drag and scale the interface to fill the entire screen. And since I'm using a big monitor, I really love this aspect. You can even scale it individually up and down like this. I mean, just this single thing is amazing. I really feel more developers should do this. Okay, so let's put it at full screen, so we'll use it at that while we browse around the preset. So one very important thing is, if you look down here, you have several pages, and this is what makes it so versatile. So even though you get with the reverb packs, and I have all reverb packs included, which gives me 2033 impulse response files, and you get all kinds of categories. So you have whole reverbs, plates, springs, effects, reverse reverbs. You can categorize here, sort only the rooms, just use that one. Oops, turn it on. Of course, you have the wet mix, dry wet mix here, so 0. Full, only reverb. So you can apply the perfect blend. So a great preset browser. And another thing, look what happens, the interface, I can, I can scale it like this and then drag this out so you can see more information. You can also use the scroll here, hold the shift and scroll left to right. So here you have the name, the length, what category it is, if it's a real recorded space, a synthesized space, or a hybrid, some suggestions for usage. I mean, lots of info there, but I'm mainly interested in the length and category, and if it's real or not. So let's just try something. Let's use the chamber size here. Let's use this one, and you really get a different color for every one. So let's just use this without, with. Let's just use this other preset, and you will hear a different, even though it's the same length for the decay. Okay, so a minimal tone difference. Here you get more difference, even though it's the same length, almost. Let's just try mid elegance. Whoops. So, I mean, if you get all the preset packs, and I really recommend you to do that, all these impulse response packs, you get so much variation in terms of presets. But let's dive even deeper, because it's actually divided in these modules. So, first module here, you can actually shape the reverb time, even though you use an impulse response. So, from a real space. You can decrease the reverb time, increase it, change the size, add pre-delay, change the low, mid, high settings here. Okay, so that is the first. Let's see, I think it's... Okay, so Option or Alt left click makes it the default setting. Then you have the next module where you can shape the direct and early reflections and tail. So direct signal, let's increase that. Let's increase the early reflections and reduce the reverb tail. And you can actually see it change here. Compared to without. Okay, so that is a dry sound. So let's reduce the direct signal. Let's increase the tail instead. So you have independent control there. You can also have two different pre-delays with offsets here. So let's add a pre-delay there and then another pre-delay and have some offset here in between them. So you get basically creative sound design of the reflections here. Let's just reload this preset so we get the default setting. So next you have an EQ for the reverb. And by the way, I forgot to tell you, you can use all these 4 different impulse responses plus 2 different algorithmic reverbs on top of each other in the same plugin. I mean, let me just show you how powerful this is. So let's say for the first one, you are using a room preset here, this one. We can reduce the overall reverb. Okay, so then you can add another impulse response on the second here. Let's use a church super long tail. Let's use this one. Let's mute that one for now. I mean, listen. Get that long tail. And this blend together with this one now. And this way you can shape your ambiences and spaces completely by blending different reverbs. Or you can even use an algorithmic reverb. So let's use this one. Here you get, let's say, a plate. Let's use a short plate. So drag this down like that. Okay, so turn it on. And add this reverb on top of it. Okay, let's turn that off for now. So this is the only reverb we use. So you get an EQ. So let's say, I mean, this is independent, I think. Let's see, if I activate the EQ here on the second one. Oh yeah, so it's the independent signal chain per impulse response. So let's say you use a plate on this one and just make it focus on, let's say, the 1 kilohertz range, and then the rest focuses on the higher and the lower frequencies, or whatever. The next module is the IR envelope, so you can see the impulse response. So this way you can actually basically create a slope like this, so you reduce the tail exactly as you want by creating an envelope like that. Here's basically, if you do it like this, it's basically a gate. Okay, let's see if I can remove those. Then you get an IR cut, so you can actually set the maximal IR length. You get modulation. This is really cool. So you can add modulation to the actual reverb. So without, with. You hear that? So this way you can add really interesting modulations to basically adding some kind of magical shimmer. I mean, let's say you are using that only on this one, impulse response here, and let's see if we can just focus in on... Okay, so we need to turn that on here. And let's use this one like that. Okay, so now the EQ is on, I think. No, turn it on like that. And then just on the higher frequencies, and then we add, let's add this one. Okay. Oh, which one were I on? Is this on? Click to add EQ band. Let's do it again. Oh, so you can have this shimmer only, modulation on it. You hear that shimmer, and then apply another here without modulation on this one and without EQ. So this is the ordinary reverb, and let's use a chamber for that. Without, or turn it off here, and then add this shimmer reverb. I mean, there's so much creative capability. Then you get a positioner, and this is also really cool. So you can actually position the reverb, the instrument, in the reverb space. So I think it's default somewhere like here. Perhaps it changes depending on preset. Okay, so let me put this on maximum setting. So without reverb. Hello. Okay, like that. And now with only reverb. So you can hear if I push this back or front. So here you get more of the early reflections automatically, since the reverb positioning is there, compared to just pushing it back to the left, back to the right. So let's say you have it like that with zero mix, and then you get that far distant right sound for the reverb. Or you can push it forward, and then you can have a wetter mix for the reverb and still get some clarity. So let's use 60% or so. So that's the positioner. Then you get a saturator, so you can actually saturate the reverb, the impulse response itself. This is really cool. So let's see what it sounds like default here. Before, with, then you can drive it. Push it harder. So you can add some subtle reverb, then you can shape the tone of the saturation. You hear that drive. So this is on the actual reverb, it's not on the sound that goes into the reverb, it's on the impulse response. You get the compressor, so you can compress the reverb. And finally you get a gate, so you can get that classic gated snare sound if you want to. In fact, let's... And by the way, this is a good opportunity to show what this is. Whenever you load a preset and you just instantly want to hear what it sounds like, you can choose an instrument here, so a snare, for example, and then... or let's use snare. Push this on auto, and then you can try it out, guitar. And you can shape the wet mix here. Right, so it just repeats here, it loops. Try it on some keys. So this way you can just loop it on a specific sound type here while you dial in your settings. So that is a really interesting feature as well. And then of course you have the master mixer here where you can shape all the IR layers if you use them. The level, the balance and panning. Yeah, so you can actually balance them here as well. Okay, so now let's just start playing with some sounds here, some presets, and see what we can find here. So let's go for ambience, I suppose. And then if you just browse here, you can see the length. It's sorted on length here. That's the way I prefer it. So let's go for some. Let's turn off that auto thing here. And then choose about 30 or so. No, with this I want to push it a bit more. Ambience. Let's see, what do we have more? We have some chambers here. And I mean, it's so cool that every single reverb impulse response has its own tone and color. Compared to you. Even though they have the exact same length, there's a different room characteristic, so to speak. Let's reduce the wet mix a bit. Big plate hybrid. So you can see here the hybrid, real or synthetic. Let's go to plates. You get a lot of different plates. Let's use a very long plate reverb. This one, even longer. I like plates because you can still get some focus. Compared to whole reverbs and so on. So they are great for vocals, for example. Location. Okay, so you get even, I mean, forest deep. Let's try that one. Oh, wow. Beautiful. So that was forest deep. Different location, mountains, rugged. Let's try a gated one here. And then you get the FX one, so FX Flurry. I have no idea what... I mean, you get so many choices. Oh, these can be really magical. Amazing. I mean, I cannot go through 2,000 presets, so you really, if you get this plugin, you have so many hours of experimenting and trying out things. But remember, every preset you find, you can go in and shape it with all these modules. The reverb time, the direct early and reverb tail separately. EQ, modulation, positioner is really powerful in my opinion. So let's do some rooms here. Let's see. Whoops. Okay, only rooms, and let's use a shorter room reply. Okay, so I just want to hear the reflection compared to dry. Okay, let's try this one. A hybrid room. Okay, then you get lots of holes. I mean, it's incredible. Small, super small holes here, hybrid stuff. Cozy hole, let's try that one. You can always go and change the mix. Let's say you want more of the dry sound. Whoops. Churches go from 245. I mean, you can get all the way up to 24.77 seconds. I have no idea what church. This must be like the world's biggest church or something. Okay, so let's try that. Before, with, it just goes on and on. Let's use a more average sized church here, like this one, and reduce the wet mix. Okay, so then you have spring reverbs. These are really cool, old school. You actually had springs that you feed the sound into, and then they vibrate, and then you pick up that vibration, which is the reverb. They have a very characteristic sound. So let's use before, after. Often they are more warm in terms of sound, so because it emphasizes more the lower frequencies, vibrations. Let's use another spring, this one. Okay, then you have reverse sounds. This is amazing. So you can actually just play a chord, like let's say F major, and then it reverses the reverb. Look, it's like a waterfall thing here. Okay, so on full mix, you don't actually hear the initial sound. Okay, so let's do the D minor. Actually use that as a transition effect even if you want to. And then you have cabinets, so these are like speaker cabinets. that you're used to on guitar amplifiers, for example, before. With. So these are not like reverb rooms, but actually it's impulse response of the cabinet, which can warm up the sound. So if you listen carefully, and with. Let's use that in full mix. Okay, and a blend between the two. So, that is HOFA IQ Series Reverb version 2. I will spend lots of more hours myself exploring the interface and the sounds and presets. But I mean, right now it is actually I think my favorite reverb of all because of its flexibility, its amazing interface, its enormous amounts of presets, impulse responses, and well, it sounds amazing, of course, as well. So I will leave a link in the video description so you can check it out if you want to learn more about this and perhaps invest in it yourself for your composer toolkit. Now choose which video you are going to watch next, or you can check out the amazing bonuses in the video description.